A tennis player wins a brutal first-round battle. The crowd is cheering. The cameras are rolling. The BBC microphone is right in front of him. And then, in just a few seconds, the celebration turns into live television chaos. French tennis star Corentin Moutet had just survived a dramatic match at the HSBC Championships at Queen's Club in London. He had beaten Giovanni Mpetshi Pericard in 3 tight sets, 6-7, 6-4, 7-6, and emotions were clearly running high. But what happened next was not about the scoreline. It was about an interview that spiraled out of control, an embarrassed BBC presenter trying to save the broadcast, and an ATP punishment worth around £30,000. Because after one of the wildest post-match interviews of the tournament, Moutet was hit with a huge fine, and now he is fighting back. The incident happened after Moutet's first-round victory over fellow Frenchman Giovanni Mpetshi Pericard. On the court, it had already been a tense and exhausting contest. Mpetshi Pericard's serve was causing serious problems, and Moutet later admitted just how much pressure he felt during the match. Speaking to BBC interviewer Jenny Drummond after the win, Moutet first tried to explain the intensity of the battle. He praised his opponent, saying he was playing incredibly well and that every point felt important because of the pressure coming from that huge serve. At first, it sounded like a normal emotional post-match interview. A player was happy. The crowd was listening. The BBC was capturing the moment. But then came the question that changed everything. Drummond asked Moutet about a massive 142 mile/hour second serve from Mpetshi Pericard. For Moutet, that moment had clearly been frustrating. He was trying to describe what went through his mind when he had match point, when suddenly the language slipped. He dropped the F word live on air. For most players, that would have been the moment to apologize, reset, and move on. But Moutet did not stop there. Drummond quickly reminded him to keep it clean. She tried to bring the interview back under control. But instead of pulling back, Moutet appeared to double down in a joking way, repeating the word again and again. The presenter immediately reacted, saying no, 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 but the damage was already happening live. And then came the final question. Drummond asked him what it felt like to get his first win on grass. It was a simple question, a perfect chance to close the interview calmly, but Moutet answered with more profanity. At that point, the BBC interview had to end. Drummond stepped in, apologized to viewers, and moved away from the player, making it clear that things would need to improve next time. What should have been a celebration of a hard-fought tennis win had become a viral broadcast moment. But the story did not end with an awkward BBC apology. After the interview spread, Moutet posted on social media that he was just joking. But the ATP Tour did not treat it as a harmless joke. On Friday, the tour released a statement confirming that Moutet had been fined $40,000, around £30,000, for unsportsmanlike conduct. The reason was clear. His use of profane language during the post-match interview after his first-round match at Queen's Club. And the penalty was massive. A brief moment of emotion, a few seconds of live TV chaos, and suddenly Moutet was facing one of the most expensive consequences of his tournament. The ATP also confirmed that Moutet would appeal the fine under ATP rules. That appeal will now be reviewed by the ATP Tour Compliance Committee. Until that process is complete, the tour says there will be no further comment. So now the story has shifted. It is no longer just about a player swearing during a BBC interview. It is about whether the punishment was fair, whether Moutet's just joking explanation will matter, and how strict tennis authorities should be when live emotions spill over in front of the cameras. For Moutet, the timing could not have been more dramatic. His win over Mpetshi Pericard had sent him into the round of 16 at the HSBC Championships. But his tournament ended in the next match, where he lost to Alejandro Davidovich, 6-4, 6-3. So instead of leaving Queen's Club with the spotlight on his tennis, Moutet left with headlines about a BBC interview, a huge fine, and an appeal hanging over him. In the end, Corentin Moutet's week at Queen's Club became a reminder of how quickly a sports story can change. One minute, he was celebrating a dramatic victory. The next, he was at the center of a live broadcast controversy. The BBC had to cut away. The presenter had to apologize. The ATP stepped in with a major punishment. And now, Moutet is preparing to challenge that decision. Was it just a joke that went too far? Or was the ATP right to send a message? That is the debate now surrounding one of tennis's most unpredictable personalities. Because in modern sport, the match does not always end when the final point is played. Sometimes, the moment everyone remembers comes after the handshake. When the microphone is switched on, and for Corentin Moutet, That microphone may have cost him £30,000.